Most men have no idea how attractive they actually are. And I don't mean that as a feel-good statement. I mean that as a documented, measurable, psychological phenomenon. Psychological research consistently shows that men underestimate how other people perceive them, their attractiveness, their competence, their impact on the people around them. So they walk around the world missing signals that are right in front of them. And the reason that they miss them is because nobody ever sat them down and taught them what attraction looks like from the outside. So in this video, I'm gonna go through 15 signs backed by peer-reviewed research that other people already perceive you as attractive. These are not tips. These are not things to practice. These are things that are already happening around you. Signals that other people are already sending you, that you have been misreading or completely ignoring your entire life. And I need to be clear about something up front. Most of these have nothing to do with your face, and the science is very specific about that. Let's get into it. People look at you more often than they look at other people. And I know some of you automatically think, well, this doesn't happen to me. But the research suggests that you're probably wrong, because the way that humans process active stimuli is not voluntary. It's not a decision. It's a cognitive reflex. Psychologist John Manner and his team at Florida State University ran 5 experiments that tested whether or not the human brain processes attractive people differently than everybody else. And what they found was decisive. Both male and female observers actively attended to attractive targets. When the brain had to choose what to focus on, when attentional resources were limited, it consistently prioritized what was attractive over what was average. And here's what matters. The observers also exhibited something called enhanced recognition memory. And this was specifically for the attractive individuals. So your brain doesn't just look at attractive people more, it remembers them better. So when someone looks at you a beat too long, when you catch somebody staring across the room and you get uncomfortable so you quickly look away, when someone does that double take, the look away and then look back, that's not random. That is their attention system flagging you as significant. The research calls it selective processing bias towards attractive stimuli, but the everyday term is they couldn't help it. And most men dismiss this. They just assume that, oh, she must be looking at someone behind me or past me. Or if you do notice that they're looking at you, you think, oh, I must have something on my face. But the research would say no. That capture of attention is automatic, preferential, and measurable. And if it's happening to you, well, that's data. Sign number 2, people hold eye contact with you a little bit longer. A 2024 study used something remarkable. They used dual mobile eye tracking systems during speed dating events. So both people wore eye tracking devices so that the researchers could measure where each person was looking, when they were looking, and for how long. And what they found was interesting. Each additional minute of mutual eye contact increased the odds of wanting to see that person again by 35%. And this held consistent after the individuals had already rated how attractive they perceived the other person to be. So what that means is that the eye contact predicted romantic interest beyond just the physical attractiveness that they had assumed at the beginning of the date. And an earlier study by Kellerman went even further on this. Pairs of complete strangers sat across from one another and stared into each other's eyes or at each other's hands. And they did this for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. No talking, no context, nothing. And the pairs who held consistent eye contact with one another reported significantly greater feelings of affection and romantic interest towards a stranger in silence after only 2 minutes. So here's what this means. The normal duration for eye contact is about 1 to 2 seconds. So when someone holds your gaze for 3, 4, 5 seconds, when they maintain eye contact while you're speaking instead of glancing around the room, when they look up at you, look away, and then look back, their visual attention system is doing something with you that it doesn't usually do with other people. If you notice this, you're not imagining it, and it's not neutral. The research says that sustained gaze is one of the most reliable non-verbal indicators of perceived attractiveness, more predictive than smiling, more predictive than laughing, and independent of physical appearance ratings. And this brings me to sign number 3. People mirror you without knowing it, aka you find people copying what you're doing. In 1999, psychologists Tanya Chartland and John Barr at NYU published one of the most elegant experiments in social psychology. They called it the chameleon effect. They found that people naturally, unconsciously, and automatically mimic the body posture, hand gestures, facial expressions, and speech patterns of people that they're actively interacting with. And the degree of this mimicry is not random. It is directly proportional to the affinity, rapport, or attraction that that person feels. So here's the sign. If someone unconsciously starts matching your body language in a conversation, crossing their legs when you cross yours, leaning forward when you lean forward, picking up your speech tempo or vocabulary, that's not coincidence. That is their nervous system saying, I want to synchronize with this person. And people with greater interpersonal attraction mirrored 30 to 50% more than those without it. So the next time you're in a conversation, shift your posture, cross your arms, lean back, and if they follow within a few seconds, their body has already decided something about you that their words might not say for months. Sign number 4, people drift into your personal space. Anthropologist Edward Hall identified 4 different distance zones that humans use in social interactions. Intimate distance, under 18 inches. Personal distance, which is 18 inches to 4 feet. And social distance, which is 4 feet to 12 feet. Followed by public distance, which is just beyond that. So the zone that somebody places you in tells you exactly how they perceive you. And the cool part is, well, they're not choosing this consciously. Research on proximity and attraction consistently shows that people move closer to individuals that they find attractive. They don't plan it. They don't decide to do it. Their body just naturally closes the gap. And a study found that proximity doesn't just increase liking, it increased perceived accessibility. So people who were closer seemed more available, more approachable, more desirable. So if people sit next to you when there are seats open that are further away, if they stand a little closer than what would be socially acceptable in a normal conversation, if they find reasons to be in the same room, the same area, the same corner of the party, that is spatial behavior communicating something below levels of consciousness. Because proximity is one of the most honest signals in human behavior because it's almost impossible to fake. Your body will go where it feels drawn. And if bodies are drawn towards you, well, that's not accidental. This brings me to point number 5. People touch you more often than they touch other people, otherwise known as casual, non-necessary touch. In 1984, psychologist April Krusco and Christopher Wetzel conducted a study that they called the Midas touch. Waitresses briefly touched customers on the hand, the shoulder, or didn't touch them at all while returning change. And what they found is that customers who were touched left significantly larger tips. And when they were surveyed afterwards, well, they couldn't identify why. They didn't report noticing this touch. And they didn't rate the waitress differently, the restaurant differently. So this effect operated entirely below conscious awareness. Because touch is one of the most primitive social bonding signals that humans have. And it's preferential. People touch people that they're comfortable with and people that they're drawn to. A hand on the shoulder, a touch on the arm, a playful push. This is how people find reasons for physical touch that aren't strictly necessary. So if people touch you more often than they touch other people in the same group, if they find small, casual excuses for physical contact, that is their body making a conscious decision about you that their mind hasn't fully processed yet. And most men don't track this. They don't notice that she brushed up against his arm but keeps her distance from other people. Start noticing this because touch is honest. And this brings me to my next point. Women don't act the same around you as they act around everybody else. And this is the one that most men get backwards because they think attraction looks like one thing. She'll be flirty and confident and obviously interested. But the research, it shows that attraction produces 2 outcomes that are very different. In which one will show up depends not only on her comfort level, but her personality. Some women will become more animated around men that they find attractive. They'll talk faster, laugh louder, ask more questions, lean in. So those people become slightly more amplified, like someone turned the volume up 10%. But other women do the exact opposite. They become quieter, more careful with their words, slightly more reserved. And what they're doing is second guessing what they're going to say because the stakes with you feel a little bit higher. These are the ones who seem perfectly normal around everyone else and then become slightly awkward when they're around you. And what's important to know is that both of these responses are triggered by the same thing, physiological and psychological arousal. Because what you may not know is that attraction stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, increased heart rate, heightened awareness, cortisol release. For some people, that arousal manifests as energy and engagement. For others, it manifests as self-consciousness and restraint. So the signal to pay attention to is not whether she's loud and bombastic, it's contrast. Is her behavior different with you than her behavior is with everybody else? Does she become a slightly different version of herself when you enter the conversation? Because if a woman is casual, effortless, relaxed with everybody else, but then something shifts when she interacts with you, tone, posture, eye contact, energy, anything, that contrast is the signal. Because attraction doesn't make people become more attractive. It makes people more self-aware. And that self-awareness is what creates that behavior change. Sign number 7, and we're gonna take women off the table for this one. How do other men treat you? Evolutionary psychologist David Buss has spent decades studying intersexual competition. And this is the competition between members of the same sex for access to mates. And the research consistently shows that men are remarkably sensitive to the attractiveness and mate value of other men, even though most would never admit it. When a high-value man enters a social environment, other men respond in one of 2 ways. Either they respect him, they defer subtly, they listen when he speaks, they adopt elements of his style or his humor or some of his interests, or they compete with him. They try to undermine, one-up, dismiss, or subtly exclude him. And both responses are caused by the same perception. He is a threat in the social hierarchy. So if heterosexual men look to you for your opinion in social settings, if they pause when you speak, if they pattern their behavior after yours, that is respect. And it signals that they perceive you as high status. However, if other men posture around you, they become louder, more aggressive, more competitive when you're present. If they dismiss you or exclude you from a conversation with no good reason, that is competition. And counterintuitively, that's also a sign, because men don't compete with men that they don't perceive as a threat. But the men who ignore you entirely, who treat you as invisible, neither respecting nor competing, that is the neutral response. And that's the difference. Respect and competition are both responses to perceived value. And if you're getting either one of those consistently, that's data about how other men are assessing you. People assume good things about you before you've ever actually demonstrated them. In 1972, psychologists Karen Dean, Ellen Burscheid, and Elaine Walster published one of the most cited studies in social psychology. They showed participants photos of attractive, average, and unattractive individuals and asked them to rate those people based on personality traits, predicted life outcomes, and social desirability. Based on nothing but a photograph, attractive individuals were rated as more kind, more honest, more intelligent, more successful, more socially skilled, and more likely to have happy marriages. They called the phenomenon "what is beautiful is good." A meta-analysis by Langlois and colleagues confirmed these findings across hundreds of studies. The halo effect of attractiveness is, in their words, strong and pervasive. It operates like a lens. Once someone perceives you as attractive, every other trait gets evaluated more favorably. And what's really interesting about this is that whether or not we acknowledge this consciously, people behave in alignment with this. In 2023, a study of nearly 2,800 participants found that applying a beauty filter to the same face produced significantly higher ratings of intelligence, trustworthiness, sociability, and happiness. Same person, same expression, different perceived attractiveness, completely different assumed personality. So here's what to look for. Do people give you credit before you've proven yourself? Do strangers treat you with warmth or respect that feels slightly disproportionate? Do people seem surprised when you reveal an insecurity? Like it doesn't match the picture that they've already painted of you, kind of thing. If yes, then you're likely benefiting from the halo effect. People have already decided that you're competent, trustworthy, and likable. And they decided this before you ever opened your mouth. Now, what this doesn't mean is that you're not those things. It means the world is now confirming what it already assumed. Sign number 9, your mediocre jokes get outsized reactions. Now, I want to be clear. This one is not about, are you objectively funny? It is about how other people respond to your efforts of humor. Research by Lee and colleagues found that men and women are significantly more likely to initiate humor with people that they're attracted to, and significantly more likely to respond with genuine laughter when someone that they're attracted to makes a joke. So to be clear, laughter is not just a response to comedy. It's also a sign of interest. A study published in Intelligence by Greengoss and Miller took it even further. What they found was that somebody's ability to produce humor also predicted their mating success. And it does so because humor actually functions as an underlying signal of intelligence. Women's attraction systems are calibrated to detect this. They respond more strongly to humor produced by men that they find attractive because the humor confirms cognitive fitness. So here's the question. Do people laugh at things that you say that aren't actually funny? Do certain people seem to find you funnier than you actually objectively are? Does your humor land differently with specific individuals than it does in the general room of people? Because if one person is consistently laughing a bit harder than is necessary towards your jokes, if they find you absolutely hilarious in moments where you're not really trying, that laughter is not about the joke. That laughter is their attraction expressing itself through the socially safest possible channel. And to be clear, the reverse is also diagnostic. If your genuinely good material falls flat with somebody, if they just give you that polite smile instead of a genuine laugh, that flat response is also data. And this one becomes increasingly uncomfortable if you don't understand female intersexual competition, because this isn't actually about the man. It's about how women have positioned the man. Let me explain. But men will become more attractive when they're already wanted. And if you're married or dating, then you already probably know what I'm talking about. But this is called mate choice copying, and it's one of the most replicated findings in evolutionary psychology. But concisely put, here's what we know. Women's preferences are influenced by social information from other women. When women see that another woman has rated a man as attractive, their own attractiveness ratings increase. And the mechanism here is informational efficiency. Because for women, evaluating a partner from scratch, well, that's cognitively expensive. You need to assess intelligence, health, personality, resourcefulness, emotional stability, genetic fitness, all from limited data. But social proof, well, that condenses that down into one strong single signal. Other people have already done the evaluation. Okay, they already chose him. So now, well, they're more inclined to want to choose you too. But if you're an honorable man, don't do that shit. I digress. The point being, okay, back to the point. What you need to notice is if interest in you seems to come in clusters. Do you get more attention when you're already in a relationship? Does being seen with women, this could be colleagues, friends, anyone, does that change how other women treat you? If yes, you're experiencing mate choice copying. Your pre-existing social validation is functioning as an attractiveness multiplier. The first person who showed interest in you lowered the barrier for the second, and the second lowered it for the third. And this is also why being single and isolated for a long period of time can feel like a negative spiral, not because you specifically became less attractive, but because the social proof signal disappeared. So the product didn't change, the marketing did. People tell you things that they don't normally tell other people. A meta-analytic review by Collins and Miller examined decades of research on self-disclosure and liking, and they found 3 consistent effects. People like others more after they've disclosed to them, and people who receive disclosures are generally more liked than those who don't. But here's the nuance that matters. Disclosure is reciprocal and preferential because people don't open up to everybody equally, but they do open up to people that they feel drawn to, people whose presence creates psychological safety and warmth or connection. Arthur Aaron's research at UC Santa Cruz confirmed this with his famous 36-question protocol. Pairs of strangers who engaged in escalating mutual self-disclosure reported feelings of closeness comparable to established relationships in under an hour. And some of these pairs formed lasting friendships. Some began romantic relationships, and one couple actually married. So if conversations with you tend to go deep, if acquaintances share things with you that feel surprisingly personal, if people say something and then go, I don't know why I'm telling you this, that's not random. That is your presence triggering a disclosure response, and it's bidirectional. If you find that you also open up to them, that the depth is mutual, not one-sided, that reciprocal vulnerability loop is one of the strongest closeness accelerators in human interaction, and it's preferential. It happens only with people that you're drawn to, not with everyone. So if people keep opening up to you, you're producing something rare, felt safety combined with genuine interest. And research says that combination is one of the most attractive interpersonal signals a person can emit. When you mess up, people actually find that endearing. In 1966, psychologist Elliot Aronson ran one of the most fascinating social experiments in social psychology. Participants listened to recordings of somebody else answering quiz questions. In one version, the person answered the questions with 92% accuracy, clearly brilliant. In the other, they answered 30%, clearly average. Then, in some versions, the person spilled coffee on themselves. Now, the brilliant person who spilled coffee was rated as more attractive than the brilliant person who didn't. But the average person who spilled coffee was rated as less attractive. Aronson called this a pratfall effect, and the implication is specific. If you have already demonstrated competence, if people already perceive you as capable, intelligent, together, then a small humanizing mistake doesn't hurt you. It makes you more relatable. It adds warmth to the competence. It signals, I'm impressive and I'm human. So here's the question. When you make a minor mistake, whether you trip over a word, forget something obvious, do something clumsy, do people react with warmth? Do they laugh with you rather than at you? Do your imperfect moments, for whatever reason, seem to make people like you more? If yes, you've already cleared the competence threshold. Because a pratfall effect only works if the baseline perception of you is already high. If people find your flaws endearing rather than off-putting, that tells you something very important about how they already see you. And here's the part that nobody really says out loud. Perfection creates distance. The person who never makes mistakes, never laughs, never lets anybody see a crack. He might be impressive, but he's unreachable. But the man who is clearly competent while also being clearly human, that is magnetic. Sign number 13, your mood is contagious and people keep coming back. In 1993, psychologists produced foundational research on emotional contagion. They found that people during a conversation automatically and unconsciously begin mimicking the emotional state of the person that they're interacting with. Facial expressions, verbal tone, posture, breathing rhythm. And through that mimicry, they actually begin to feel the same emotions. Now, it happens in a millisecond. It happens without awareness, and it's essentially unavoidable. So if people seem to relax around you, if conversations with you tend to elevate mood rather than drain it, if friends seek you out not for what you do, but for how they feel around you, that's emotional contagion operating in your favor. When someone says, you just have good energy, what they're actually describing is neurochemical processes. Your emotional state is producing a positive experience for the people around you. And that experience registers as attraction. Not always romantic, but the kind of, I want to be around this person, that underlines every form of human connection. Now again, the inverse is also important here too. If someone consistently feels drained, anxious, or flat after spending time with a specific person, that's emotional contagion in the opposite direction. And they will unconsciously avoid that person without ever being able to articulate why. So the question is, do people seek you out? After spending time with you, do they seem lighter? Do they come back? Do they want to see you again? Do they initiate that connection? And this brings me to the next sign. Familiarity is making you more attractive, and you can't see it. In the 1960s, psychologists discovered that repeated exposure to a stimulus, any stimulus, increases liking. He showed participants Chinese characters, geometric shapes, photographs of faces at varying frequencies. And the stimuli that were shown more often were consistently rated as preferred, even when participants could not consciously remember seeing them before. And he called it the mere exposure effect. And it's been replicated hundreds of times, including with human faces. And this is why the coworker that you initially found unremarkable becomes attractive after months of working together. This is why the friend that you didn't notice at first becomes someone that you consistently think about. Your brain recognizes the familiar stimulus, processes it more easily, and it interprets that ease as liking. So here's a sign that you're missing. If the same people keep showing up in your life, if certain individuals keep finding reasons to be around you, keep joining conversations that you're in, keep appearing at events that you attend, part of what's happening is a mere exposure effect building in their system. Every time they see you, they like you a little more, and they have no idea why. From your perspective, it just looks like coincidence. From a research perspective, it's familiarity, doing exactly what the science says it does. So when someone who's been in your orbit for a little while suddenly seems more interested, when a friendship slowly drifts into something that feels a little different, that trajectory is somewhat predicted by this research with remarkable precision. Mere exposure is slow, invisible, and cumulative, and it's building right now with you and people that you see regularly without either of you actually knowing it. Sign number 15, you're more memorable than you realize. This is the compound signal, the one that ties everything together. Manners research on selective attention showed that the brain allocates more processing resources to attractive individuals. Zhejiang's work showed that familiarity increases liking. The halo effect shows that once somebody's perceived as attractive, every interaction gets filtered through a favorable lens. And Collins and Miller's work showed that people disclose more to and remember more about people that they're drawn to. Stack those together and you get this. If people remember your name when you've only met them once, if they recall details from a conversation that you've half forgotten, if they bring up something that you said weeks ago that you don't even remember saying, they are telling you that their brain flagged you as significant. Because memory is not equal. We do not remember everyone the same way, but we do remember the people that activated something in us. Curiosity, attraction, warmth, fascination. The brain does not waste cognitive resources on neutral stimuli. So if someone remembers you, you registered. Now, we've gone through 15 signs, every one of them published, every study verifiable, and they all point to the same conclusion. Attraction is not a stable variable. It is not a generic coin flip. It is a system of signals, behavioral, psychological, and social, and most of which operate below conscious awareness, and the majority of which have nothing to do with your face. So if you've been walking through the world measuring your attractiveness by one variable, the one you see in the mirror, you've likely been measuring the wrong thing. And the research is very clear about this. People are staring at you, mirroring you, moving closer to you, opening up to you, laughing harder at your jokes, remembering your name, and feeling better after being around you. And you've been calling it a coincidence, but it's not a coincidence. It's documented, and now you know what to look for. Now, if this reframed something for you, then share it with another man who likely needs to hear this, because most men will never get told what I just told you, not by the women around them and not by the men. This is the feedback that nobody gives. And if you want the other side, things that kill attraction, the behaviors that push women away without ever telling you why, then leave a comment below. And if you like this video, then I think you'll like this one too. And if not, then respectfully,